Today we're gonna talk about backgrounds. I got a request from the YouTubes. The Destroyer73 asked me to do a kind of a tutorial about, the basics of backgrounds and what I think about and how I do my backgrounds. Well, I usually don't do backgrounds because I'm not a background kind of a guy. My focus is usually on the character, and that's because I usually, I'm more attracted to the comic kind of way, the manga kind of way, where you don't use much background, only when you have to. But I do sometimes have to do backgrounds. So I'm gonna go through some ways that I do backgrounds and what I think about when I do these backgrounds. Okay, so I'm gonna start you off with a very simple kind of a background, and that is to use a color. Now, as you can see, I have a sketch here. The character is not filled in with any color, just to show what you can do with the backgrounds. Okay, sometimes you use it just in black and white, but for this we're just gonna do the sketch and we're gonna use colors. Okay, so for instance, you can do, let's take a bright pink and just change the gray, for instance, to this. Now it more pops out, the character, feels a little bit more alive and such. We could go with a gradient, which is from pink to the background color, which is red, and just make it pop a little bit more, make it a little bit more alive. Now this is a very simple way of doing it. The thing to think about when you do this is what colors does the character have. For instance, let's say the dress is pink, then it will not, mix and match. For instance, if we do it like this and we take, let's say, a more brighter pink, and just, I'm not gonna do the whole dress, but just to show you, like this, and you can see already that the dress is kind of like, not blending well with the background. So remember, have some colors that is not any of the colors that your character have. So for instance, let's remove the pink, perhaps go with a blue, more of a passive blue here. Now you can see the colors are popping out better because we have the pink, the warm in the background, and the blue dress is the coolness. So it kind of pops out better, as you can see. It also is not the same color as the background, which doesn't make the character blend into the background. Okay, so remember that. Easy colors, try not to pick the colors that the character is either wearing, or the skin, or the clothes, or whatever it is. Try to find a color that is a little bit more off, but at the same time complements the character. Okay, if it's a calm moment like this, you can use lighter, more non-aggressive, a little bit more matte, not so bright, but go to the matte side of the colors. Okay, that is one way to do it. So let's back up here. Okay, we have white, there we go, and I'm gonna go even back to the gray, there we go. So for instance, let's put a new layer above the gray. And no, let's remove the gray. So now we only have white, okay? For instance, let's take the same pink we had before, and now we can do a sort of a frame up. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm gonna show you. So for instance, let's make a selection, a square, or a rectangle, I should say, like this, okay? So I'm gonna go and move it a little bit, like this, because that's where I want the color to be. Now the eye is drawn to that square. So what is blocking the square? Well, it's the character. So now we get an intense kind of an eye draw to the character because the color is in a certain place. Okay, we can also do it like this. We can take a selection like this and make a cool kind of a composition like so. You see? Now we have a kind of a cool composition where it's like a frame and she's kind of going outside of the frame. This is kind of used in comics sometimes when you have a panel and the character kind of pops out and goes outside the panel's lines or borders. So that's also a way, and we can mess around with this as well. We can make a gradient like this. Boom. A little bit kind of perhaps dark, but you know, pops the character out a little bit more and such like that. Okay? So that is also a way you can use color to your advantage. But now, let's see. Now we have done the kind of simple backgrounds. And I probably am thinking that most of you want to know, well, what if you want to have things in the background? Like, you know, a place or a room or anything like that. Well, for most time, I usually think about it like a photographer. A photographer is trying to focus your eye on something, and the lens, usually if you're trying to focus on a character and the background is in the background kind of gets, you know, blurry. So for instance, let's remove the character, okay? I'm gonna go and do a background. Let's say we have this character. She's kind of like floating in the dress, kind of like she's outside. So let's do a very quick outside kind of environment. And I'm not gonna spend much time on it. I'm just gonna go with let's make it like so, and we're gonna go like this, okay? And we have some grass. Perhaps we have some mountains. Let's see, put some blue, dark, and we're gonna go like this. Perhaps something like that. Okay, and I'm just gonna fill this in so we don't have any trouble. Let's see, and let's take a middle day sky, go like this. Nope, the other way around, please. There we go. Maybe lighten that up a little bit. And as you can see, we have something here. I am gonna go in here and I'm gonna go and change some stuff. I'm gonna take a darker palette over here just to make it a little bit more. As you can see, I'm not doing much details. I'm just trying to get the main extent of the background because I don't have to do much details. Same thing here. I'm gonna go with the grass here. I'm gonna take some vegetation. Let's see, grass. Yeah, let's take some grass over here. No, I wanted... Why am I getting the red? Oh, so I have to have a different kind of green here. Okay, let's go. Boom, 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 boom. That is not what I want. Let's go this and this. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. Let's get some grass in here. I'm gonna take another type of grass over here, just so we get like that. Okay. So now we have a kind of simple, very simple background. I'm gonna take even one step more and just go a little bit shade here. Okay, like that. As you can see, not too much work on this, not at all. You can even go kind of like this and take perhaps a little bit of like such, a little bit snow on the mountain tops. But as you can see, it's very simple done. Not much thought into it at all. Just trying to get the basic shapes and all that. So now we put the character back in. As you can see, well, it kind of works, but here's the thing. Now I'm gonna put all these layers that I've done, which is 3. I have the grass, I have the mountains, and I have the sky. So I'm gonna put these, just combine or merge layers, but just these layers. So now they're one. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go to blur and Gaussian blur. That's usually the best. And now I'm gonna push it a little bit. My preview is a little bit off here, but you can see it comes after a little while. And sometimes I really want to go really blurry. And processing, and here you go. As you can see, very simple, Very, very simple. Sometimes you even want to perhaps fade it down a little bit to the white, just to get a simple background, because the focus is the character, okay? So this is a very simple thing. And what you can do is, you know, put a little bit more detail instead of what I did. As you can see, if we go back, you can see I didn't put much detail into anything. But if you put more detail into it, for instance, let's make a tree here, okay? We're gonna make a tree and make it a little bit more kind of detailed, so we can get something that I can show you, okay? So let's put a tree here. We're gonna make it a more wider tree, and I'm gonna go lower the brush. And as you can see, I'm trying to do the roots here, just trying to make it a little bit more detailed, because as anything, if you want good background, really good background, then you do the details. You always do the details. Just know if you're gonna blur it, it's gonna look better with a little bit more detail. But if it's, you know, a background that you don't really care about, then you don't have to do all the details. It's not something you have to do, okay? So remember that trick. You don't always have to do the detailed background. You can sometimes skip out, but you know, if you want to make it look really good, and this is just the basics now, then you don't have to do much. Not much work is needed. As you can see, I'm trying to do a little bit of a sun thingy happen here. So let's see, I'm gonna try and just make it a little bit good looking here. And I'm gonna lock that down, boom, and we're gonna go a little bit like such. Okay, and I'm gonna go within this and just take a very big brush and just go a little bit more nuts with it. Trying to get some randomness into the plantation. Now I have good brushes for this. I just want to show you that you don't need all the time brushes to get the good stuff. Sometimes you have tools that can make you create the good stuff as well. And I'm gonna go with the tree here, and I'm gonna go and do some small, you know, details, you know, the aging of the tree like this. I'm gonna go some lines here, trying to get a little bit of detail just to emphasize that it's a tree. So for instance, some of the lines may be old and have lines on it and stuff like that. And we're gonna go also make so the tree is standing in the grass like this, you know, kind of grass popping out of the roots and stuff like that. So you can see now we have kind of a good tree here. I'm also gonna go and do a quick just shadowy stuff here like this. So you can see not much detail, but still it's better than what we had before. So I'm gonna go even ham it up a little bit more, kind of like this, just to get some cool effects when we then blur it like such. Okay, so now we have a tree and all that. Now we're gonna go and combine it with the layer below just to make it easy for us. You can have it on different layers, but it's kind of a mess then, because you have to know all the blurring and the effects you make on everything. I try to use, I'm gonna talk about that later. Just let's watch and see what we get. And now I'm pushing the Gaussian blur once again. So let's make it process. And you can see we get a kind of a cool effect, because now you kind of see what we have done, but still you don't see what we have done. So you get the kind of effect. You can also lower it down, but you know, the more you blur, the more you can hide your mistakes. So now we're going about 36 instead of 55. And you can see now we get to see the details a little bit more. So the more detailed background, the better result, and the less you have to blur. But sometimes you have to blur to get that, you know, depth of field kind of effect. That the focus is on the character and not the background. Because the background is just what it is, a background. Okay, remember that. If the background is the focus, then you have to remember it's gonna be reversed, and the character is probably gonna be out of focus. Okay, so let's talk about that depth of field, because here's the thing. When I let's take a red pen here, because here is something I always think about when I do stuff, and we're gonna just do a new layer to show you what I mean. So for instance, I'm gonna go here and just show you. So if we are the camera here pointed towards the person, which is over here. Okay, so we have the person. Now let's say we have another person perhaps in the background, and then we have perhaps the background. Let's say here is everything else. The background is over here, okay? So we have first the person, which is gonna be our focus, okay? So we're focusing on this character. This is the girl in the foreground. The second one is the second person. Now, is this person just gonna be like a person on the street, or is it gonna be a character that we need to have focus on, or is it, you know, what is the relationship with these two? But as you can see, we're going through here, we're going through there, and then we have the background. Maybe it's a city, maybe it's something. So now we have to think, BG, background. So now we have this to think about. Which one is in focus? And we can change it up. We can, you know, remove the focus to perhaps the second person. Now this is the star of the show, and this is the second one. So now we have to have focus on this. So which one are we gonna, you know, focus on? That's how I think about it. It's kind of like a camera, and you know, which one is the focus on? Because we can do it like this. Let's say we have this. The focus is on the second one. That means that this character is supposed to be in the foreground. Perhaps it's a character we don't have to see much of. Okay, so then we take the focus off. But here's the focus, and the background, well, that's really not anything we have to focus on, because we have two things already to focus on. So maybe we can blur it even more. As you can see, we have different types of blur and focus. Maybe the background is not even needed. You just have to have some lines, or maybe a color or something that shows you that, oh, okay, we're focusing on the relationship between these two characters and not the background. But sometimes the focus is on the first person. And this character maybe is a little bit focused, but not that much. Well, okay, just make it a little bit unfocused. Maybe not too much, but just simply enough so we can tell that the background is not as well the focus of this picture or this drawing. Because now you can see, now we have 1, 2, 3. 2, a little bit out of focus because it's not the important character, it's the first one. So for instance, let's remove this and go back to our character here. Now for this, I'm gonna go and do a quick sketch of a character here. I'm not gonna do any details, but for instance, let's say we have a character here that is kind of like a friend or something, perhaps someone who is surprised how pretty she is. Oh my god, she's so pretty. How can she be so pretty? Maybe she's just walking by and this character is like, oh my god. And let's make it, oh my god face a little bit more exaggerated. Perhaps like, oh my god, she's so pretty. How can she be so pretty? So for instance, just like this, a simple character, okay? Maybe put a shirt on this character like such. Okay? There we go. So this character is surprised, but now we have the background here, and I'm gonna go and just put some white underneath him so we can see more easy. Let's see, I'm gonna go boom like this so I can see. This is also a thing when you do backgrounds and you have a lot of layers and stuff like that. I always usually try to put a darker kind of grayish layer so I can see if I have colored everything that I need to color, so I don't miss anything, and if colors are spilling out somewhere, it's good to have. And sometimes when you work a lot on digital, on your screen, you get tired eyes of watching the white. It can kind of mess you up with colors and such. So remember that sometimes it's good to have a layer with other colors. For this, I'm gonna go and lock this. I'm actually gonna go and make him have a pink so we can easily see which one is which. Okay, so now let's say we go back to this. We're gonna make this. The first character we're gonna be focusing on is the girl. The second character is the guy here who is surprised at her beauty, and the background is gonna be our sky, tree, and everything like that. And you're gonna see what I mean when we do this. Okay, so I'm gonna go back a little bit so you can see what we're doing. So now we have this. As you can see, we don't get a depth of field because the characters and the background is kind of like, all focused. So it feels like they are kind of close and on top of each other. And therefore, we're gonna go and do this. We're gonna make first the character here as one layer. So now we're gonna go and Gaussian blur this character. Just like this, just a little bit. Boom. Maybe that was a little bit too much. We would still want to see perhaps a little bit of his expressions. He's not the focus, but he's not supposed to be, totally out of focus. So like this. And we're gonna go with the background, we're gonna go much more. There we're gonna go, because the background is not the important thing in this picture. It could be if you have to explain a location or something like that. So we're gonna go and get that rendered. There we go. And I'm even gonna go like this, because sometimes if you have a very colorful background, it's gonna take over the picture. Remember that sometimes you have to complement, even when you're doing things from real life, you have to sometimes complement the colors to make it look a little bit lighter, to emphasize the characters, because the characters is what we're looking at. So I'm gonna go and do it like this, tonal correction, and I'm gonna go with hue, and I'm actually gonna bring down some of the colors a little bit and increase the lightness like such. And there we go. Now you can see, now we have what I was talking about. We have the main character in full, contrast, everything is sharp, we see everything. Then we have the second character, which we have blurred a little bit, not too much, but as you can see, if we compare the sharpness and the blurry version of the second character, he's close but not that close. And then we have the background that kind of melts into the whole thing, and we get the character. So we get the 1, 2, 3, and you can do this with a lot of things. And even if the landscape, I mean, we could even in this one, in this image, we could even make the tree and the grass one layer, and make the mountains in the background blurrier, so we even get a depth of field effect even on the background, because that will help sell the picture as well. Okay, so remember, if something is farther away from the camera, it's gonna get blurrier and blurrier and blurrier. So we are the camera. We are watching this. So we here, that's how we are framing this picture right here. And the character we see first in our lens is this character. And then the second character, which is the guy, and then we have the background. And even the background can go a couple of, layers down to just get the better effect of it all. So this is mainly what I think about when I do my backgrounds. Just trying to make it simple, and if it has to be detailed, okay, I'm gonna go do the details as much as I can, and then I'm trying to think like a camera. Which one is the focus on, and is there a secondary, a third, a fourth, a fifth? How many layers down am I have to gonna blur it? So you don't go 100% blur or massive blur on everything. You have to go a little bit on the closer thing, and a little bit more on the second one, and the third, and the fourth, and going on like that. So that is how I pretty much think about backgrounds. And there are a lot of more things you can do with backgrounds, but this is pretty much the basics and the steps that I use, which is the color version, trying to think about it as a camera, what colors do you think about, and stuff like that. If you want more, I will probably do a tutorial later on when we get to the more advanced stuff. But it's gonna be more about composition more than background. So yeah, let me know what you want, and if there's something else you want me to take up on these tutorials and try to explain how I think about them, because there are a lot of ways to do it. This is my way, so remember that you don't have to follow this. There are a lot of ways to do it. You have to find your own, okay? You just have to find your own. But I hope you have learned something, and I will see you in the next tutorial video. Bye!